Gon' kick it off then. Whoa. Gon' kick it off then. It ain't a game, kick it off then. Whoa. So gon' kick it off then. What we talking about, it goes deep. Something to watch, even from the nosebleeds. The fans been waiting, anticipating for the whole week. Cause we making moves and breaking news, no time for cold feet. Don't confuse, you know the rules and that we play to win. You ain't prepared to take it, then I let the games begin. A man's world, but the ladies gon' be taking it. Not a trophy or an arm piece, unless we talking Lombardi. What's up?
It's been Hoptober for a while, but finally, fall appeared later than Lauryn Hill at her concerts. The Cardinals and Broncos finally got wins this season. The Cowboys and Rams have both dropped 2 straight after such promising 3-0 starts. Another undefeated team gone. Cairo Santos cut from the Titans. What's up with the Browns? And some imbalance in the Gruden brotherhood. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. You are tuned into week 5 of WTF Too. Women Talk Football Too. This is Latasha Miles, a.k.a. Joan Madden, the Gridiron Goddess of SheSP and the network, joined alongside my passionate, lovely, knowledgeable co-host. Let these fine folks know who you are.
Hey, good people. It is the one and only Shalika McCrimmon, also known as the Touchdown Tomboy. And I'm chiming in today a little bit under the weather. I guess I feel as bad as Baker Mayfield looked. But needless to say, I'm here and we're ready to talk week 5, baby. Let's get this show on the road.
Well, I have to give you some credit on my end. I think you definitely sound a lot better than he looks, because he was looking a little bit like your boy. What's your boy name? They used to the one from Texas A&M, the Cleveland. Yes, I got to give you a little bit more credit than that. I know Hugh Jackson's sitting somewhere laughing. That's definitely for sure.
Man, it was a disaster, yo. But anyway, we got other things to talk about. We'll talk about Baker another time.
Absolutely, no doubt. So let's get this thing started off with the first news we heard upon waking up on a Monday morning. The Redskins head coach, Jay Gruden, was fired. Let's get this thing started here in the first quarter of the show. No surprises there. With an 0-5 start, some issues from the players. He started McCoy over Haskins, locker room turbulence, and then the sketchy video of some activity away from the gridiron was leaked over the past couple of weeks. I guess it was just a matter of time when you got interim coach Bill Callahan will preside. Of course, his familiarity and ties with the Cowboys, the Jets, Nebraska, touchdown tomboy. Now, the Redskins do play the Dolphins in Miami this Sunday in the Tank Bowl, so maybe that can help. But other than Callahan is in the interim, what other changes do the Redskins need to make? Are we talking Bruce Allen, Greg Minuski? I mean, when is Dan Snyder going to finally get some accountability here? So how do we get back to the days of hail to the Redskins instead of go to hell Redskins?
It all starts with that man, Dan Snyder. You know, and what's crazy is that Dan Snyder himself, like, is disastrous. Like this, this organization, it starts with him. You know, like Dan Snyder has hired how many coaches? I think Jay Gruden has been the longest coach that he's had,
right.
And I think he's fired five coaches. You know, and it's just been disastrous. And some would say that Dan Snyder needs to be fired, but you can't fire the owner, or can you? But anywho, I just don't think that. I think their problems are way deeper than Jay Gruden. I think that they have a whole lot of other issues going on, and I don't think that Bill Callahan can help them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And what's funny is that Dan Snyder is now looking at Mike Tomlin to try to come in, and Mike Tomlin, don't be nobody's fool but your own.
Mm-hmm.
And stay over there in Pittsburgh unless they fire you, and you don't have anywhere else to go. But yeah, I don't think that even a prayer could help the Redskins right now. What do you think about this whole situation, especially like under Dan Snyder himself? Like, you know his history, so what are you thinking about how all this is happening?
Yeah, I think it's definitely Dan Snyder needs to get a little bit more of the accountability and credit for a lot of the demise of the Redskins here. We're talking about one of the oldest, one of the finest organizations. And I'm not talking about like the mascot controversy and stuff like that, but just on paper, you got the team that said the first African American win a Super Bowl in Doug Williams. I mean, this is such a pioneer franchise, and to watch them discombobulate the way that they have over the past 10 or 12 years, the whole Robert Griffin stuff with the Mike Shanahan. I mean, they even brought Joe Gibbs back, and that second time around was very disastrous as well. I mean, they had Zorn for like a year, the forgotten coach as well. And then just their history in the playoffs as a recent. I mean, yes, there's been some issues with the personnel, but at the same time, I think you've mentioned it earlier too. It seems like these storied franchises, when you look at the ownership, I mean, Al Davis had a little bit of the riffle. Jerry Jones, he has to hold some accountability. I think that you do have to go to the top here. Dan Snyder, yes, you write checks. Yes, you have a lot of money. I mean, look at the Albert Hainsworth situation, 7 years, $100 million. That didn't work. Antoine Randall L., getting him from the Steelers, signing him to all that money, that didn't work. This guy has made a lot of questionable moves, and I think it is definitely making the Redskins suffer. The fans deserve better. The other teammates and players deserve better. And I mean, even Joe Gibbs, his second time around, he deserved better. So I really think that there needs to be more changes higher at the top before it starts trickling down and the coaches start getting the blame here. I really think that Dan Snyder has to hold some accountability to think he's been very quiet in all of this. And it's like nobody's pointing at him. And he hasn't even stepped up and even claimed a lot of this as well. So I really think that until they get some more changes there with the ownership, that the Redskins are going to continue to suffer and continue to have these problems, and that the changes have to go a little bit higher than the coaching here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yes, ma'am, indeed. So we're going to move on to the second quarter here. Now, on the other side of this brotherly love, let's talk about Jon Gruden. He was victorious in the Khalil Mack Bowl as the Raiders defeated the Bears 24-21 at home. Both teams now, coincidentally, have the same 3-2 record. That's very interesting there. And now they're in second place in the AFC West, just one loss behind Kansas City at this time. And they've also received Zay Jones from the Buffalo Bills in a trade. Now they have an additional receiver. So what's your evaluation of the Raiders at this moment, Touchdown Tomboy?
So, you could tell that Jon Gruden was actually waiting on this one, okay? Mm-hmm. And he planned for the Mack attack, okay? They double-teamed Mack all night long, and they made it so that, like, they put him in a lot of trap defenses and so that he wasn't able to be effective. And all they did really was neutralize Khalil Mack, okay? And then once they neutralized Khalil Mack, they had one other thing going for him. Josh Jacobs. Man, Josh Jacobs put in work yesterday. 123 yards on the ground, 2 TDs for 26 carries. So, they just pound them with the running game yesterday. And that was huge. So every time, they came in and, sometimes when you're a fast pass rusher, sometimes they can play to your disadvantage. And so he was fast off the snap, and John was waiting for that. And they just delivered yesterday by pounding the football so that Khalil Mack couldn't do what Khalil Mack is known to do. And it worked for them. It worked for them. Now, they did almost lose the game, because they allowed them to come back, from a deficit, and the fact that, my man, what's his name? Daniel Chase. Mm-hmm. He was a backup, not that I thought Mitch would do much better, but, I think it was an overall good win for the Raiders because it wasn't an expected win. So, I think, John gets to get his little moment of gloating for a moment, and get back to work, of course. But I actually thought that it was an overall good game, and maybe playing in London had a little something to do with it. But, outside of that, what was your take on this game, in terms of what the Bears did and how Jon Gruden neutralized Khalil Mack? Because he was a big, target in this game.
Absolutely. I think the game plan was just more so, if we do win this game, it will not be because of Khalil Mack. This is definitely a day that Jon Gruden had circled on his calendar. It was his Christmas morning. I feel like they had put a lot of eggs in this basket of preparation for this game, being very familiar with Khalil Mack. I'm not necessarily going to say there was some bitterness or some resentment or anything, but Jon Gruden wanted to actually make a statement game and go out here and make it a reminder of, like, yes, I got rid of Khalil Mack, yes, indeed, but what we're not going to do is have us lose this game, and you remind me of that. It's like, if the Bears go on to do great things for the rest of the year, it will not come down to this game. You will not make me look foolish in this trade, and I'm going to make sure that we get this win. I would have loved to have seen this game, though, in maybe Chicago or maybe in Oakland, to see if that would have made anything differently. But of course, this was on a neutral site, so that it really wasn't a big difference in the fans here. Like, oh, this wasn't necessarily an Oakland crowd completely. This wasn't necessarily a Chicago crowd. So I just really would have liked to have seen maybe if he would have did it in Chicago the same, or if it would have been the same in Oakland. But this was definitely a statement game. I kind of felt like this was almost like a mini Super Bowl for Oakland. But things are very interesting now in the AFC West, with the Chargers also having a couple of losses, Kansas City dropping, Denver finally getting their first win, but still this is a wide open AFC West. And I think if Jon Gruden and company can take the momentum, adding Zay Jones to not really necessarily fill a void completely with Antonio Brown, but having that extra additional weapon on offense, that the Oakland Raiders can make a little bit of noise as we get here almost through the halfway point in the season. And we're just coming fresh off of watching the Monday night game, a San Francisco win, as they remain the only NFC team undefeated in the league this year with a 4-0 record, a 31-3 win over the Cleveland Browns, creating 4 turnovers, including a Richard Sherman interception, held the Browns to 180 yards, and the victory of 31-3, again improving to 4-0. Man, what's up with the Cleveland Browns? But touchdown, Tomboy. Let's let you go ahead and take it away with our halftime presentation. What you got?
All right. So, of course, we've been talking about last week, it was like a little detour because I had to give y'all a recipe. I hope y'all have tried the recipe by now. And if you haven't, I hope it's on your list of things to do in the next couple of weeks, because now the fall is here and it's feeling real good, okay? Now, so we're going to get back to our regularly scheduled program of what we've been doing. So we've talked about first downs, and we've talked about offense, and we've talked about offensive lines and defensive lines. And one of the things, and the last thing that we talked about was penalties, okay? And I wanted to go down the penalty road because, penalties are a big part of the game. And so a lot of times we don't know what some of the penalties are. And so I wanted to start off with one of the most simplest penalties that's out there, okay? And that is the delay of game, okay? That's a simple penalty, and of course I've been seeing that a lot in the league lately, and I think it's the best place to start, a delay of game, okay? So what happens with a delay of game is that you get 40 seconds from the start of the play clock to snap the ball into play. So you get it's a little clock over on the side, and it'll be counting down beside the regular time clock that tells you how much time is in whatever quarter you're in. And then there's a little clock beside of it. If you ever wonder what those numbers are, that's your play clock. And you get 40 seconds on that play clock to snap that ball. If that time ever reaches 0 without you even either calling a timeout, okay, or either getting a timeout or a 2-minute warning or anything like that, then of course, then you get a penalty called the delay of game, and that's a 5-yard penalty. And of course, if you're on offense, and you get that 5-yard penalty, then what does that do? That's going to drive you away from the goal line and push you back 5 yards. The only time that delay of game can be averted is if you call a timeout. And if there is a timeout that is called, then you get 25 seconds out of that timeout to get that ball snapped off. Okay? So let's recap again. Delay of game is you get 40 seconds to put that ball into play from a snap. Okay, if you don't do that, it says the 5-yard penalty, and that is what's called delay of game. Okay, so now that we understand that it's delay of game, we've talked about offensive line, defensive lines, and tonight we've talked about delay of game. So now that's back to you, Tosh.
No doubt. Appreciate that insight and that information there from the knowledgeable one. The touchdown Tomboy never ceases to amaze us there. And speaking of delay of game, more fallout coming here from this Redskins firing of former coach Jay Gruden. It's already been announced that when they play Miami on Sunday, Haskins still will not start, and also Trent Williams has no plans on ending his holdout. So seems like the fire keeps getting bigger and bigger instead of it getting put out here in Washington. So this is going to be interesting to see how things go from here. But hey, they got it set up on a silver platter for them. This is a really good time for them to go ahead and get a win, even though it's in Miami. Miami does not have any wins either. They're coming off a bye week, an extra week of preparation. Drama for Washington. We'll definitely see how it goes. And also, speaking of delay, a delay of a win went down as well on Sunday with an upset special, one at home for the Chiefs, which is very rare. Definitely some blown calls, some controversy there, but it was a homecoming for Justin Houston, who obviously wanted to make a statement in the Colts' victory on Sunday night, and he did just that. So, touchdown Tomboy. We were both really, really high and big on the Chiefs this Sunday. What a disappointing loss. What are your thoughts on the Chiefs getting their first loss this season on Sunday night at home?
I think the Madden curse is starting to catch up with old Patty Mahomes. His ankle looked a little bit busted, on Sunday night, in that game, and he's starting to look like, he's not his old self, and so it's looking like he's starting to get that injury bug. So in addition to that, the one thing that the Colts did is that they kept Patty Mahomes in the pocket. Mm-hmm. We know that Patty is most effective. Pat Mahomes is most effective when he's scrambling. And one thing that they did is that they isolated him and they kept him inside of that pocket. And they kept him off the field. The amount of time that the Colts used to wind that clock down with Marlon Mack in that backfield was ridiculous, okay? Mm-hmm. In the second half, it was like they held the ball, I think, for almost 28 minutes in just the second half alone with just running the ball with Marlon Mack. It was crazy. Marlon Mack was just doing what he wanted to do back there. So they kept Patrick Mahomes off the field, and then they basically isolated Patrick Mahomes to stay in the pocket, okay? And then they had 4 pass rushers up front who were effective in getting to Patrick Mahomes, Justin Houston being one of those people, and they just delivered. And I think the Colts said, you know what, we're coming to make a statement win, and that's exactly what they did yesterday. They ran the ball. They had a good, formidable defense, even with a lot of young guys in that secondary, and guess what? They came to play, and Jacoby Brissett, he wasn't bad under center, but I think the defense of Kansas City is starting to show on them a little bit because they struggled to stop the run, and instead of stopping the run, they couldn't get the ball back in Patrick Mahomes' hand because Marlon Mack was just running all over him. And I think that was the key to keeping that score down. And they kept the Colts. They kept the Chiefs off the field, and that ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hand, and the rest was just history. And that was my take on the game. What do you think? Because I'm interested in seeing what your opinion was, because that's what I think happened.
Well, I was very disappointed in the defense from the Chiefs. I've been sipping this Steve Spagnuolo Kool-Aid. I honestly thought that was the biggest offseason move away from player personnel. And I'm such a huge Steve Spagnuolo fan, but it looked like Bob Sutton reappeared on the defensive coordinator side this past Sunday. I mean, Steve Spagnuolo was very, very. There wasn't a lot of aggression from him on what they were able to do on the defensive side of the ball. They were not allowing the defense to get off the field in a shorter period of time. The Colts, as you had alluded to, they were able to kill some clock, and it just seemed like Steve Spagnuolo could not get those guys off the field, and so I was very disappointed in him. And just a really, really strange piece of information here. It almost seems like the ugly genius head of Bill Belichick is rearing once again. As remember, he traded Jacoby Brissett to the Colts a couple of years ago. Maybe it was set up to, hey, let me get Jacoby Brissett to stop the Chiefs from an undefeated record, to kind of have this as a cakewalk for my boys. So thank you once again, Jacoby Brissett, still playing for the Patriots on Sunday night, and maybe a little bit on some outfield work nonetheless. But it seems like that was very strategic of Bill Belichick to ship him out, maybe thinking that there might be something, some kind of trick up the sleeve. Very far-fetched, but Jacoby Brissett still doing a little bit of work there for Bill Belichick and making sure that the Chiefs were no longer the other remaining undefeated team in the AFC. So it's definitely set up there for the Patriots for sure now, with the Chiefs getting that first loss. And speaking of the Patriots, going to week 6 preview here for the fourth quarter down the front stretch. They're actually in a Super Bowl rematch against the Giants. Not quite the same flair and flavor, but on Thursday night, that's how we start off week 6. A Super Bowl rematch between the Giants and the Patriots. Also, a division game bright and early Sunday morning. So Panthers and Bucs fans, you have to set your clocks very early Sunday morning. Play in London, Bucs and Panthers for part 2 of that divisional game. Of course, Tampa taking it earlier this season and Charlotte doing week 2. You got an NFC Championship game between the 2017 Vikings and Eagles. A Monday night divisional matchup between the Lions and Packers. The Texans and Chiefs should be an entertaining one to watch. We've noticed a keen difference in how the Cowboys play against teams who are above 500 versus those who don't. So they could easily bounce back this Sunday against the winless Jets. Or will the Jets get their first win? I mean, who knows? And somebody has to win between the Dolphins and the Redskins, right? So touchdown Tomboy, what are you eyeballing for week 6?
Oh, man. So there are a lot of good games for week 6. But what's at the top of my list is Monday night, the Lions and the Packers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's going to be the game of the week to watch for me. Now, I do think that the Bucs and the Panthers will actually be a very, very great game to watch early Sunday morning, as they are division rivals. And hopefully, you know, the Panthers will get the win this time, because they're riding high and they're right there at the top of the division again, and so they need this win if they're going to try to win the division at all. And they're looking formidable. They having a few issues on defense, but and on offense for that matter, and they're running Christian McCaffrey into the ground, but that's neither here nor there. They still look very good. And then of course the Eagles and the Vikings, of course, is always going to be a good game. So those are my top games of the week. I do hope that that the Redskins or the Dolphins, well, I'm going to go with the Redskins just because I feel sorry for the Redskins. And I'm not quite sure. I don't know if I can even say that. I really would like to see Dwayne Haskins get some reps in and actually practice with those guys. I think he might be able to help them. So the fact that he's not playing this week is kind of puzzling to me, or that they're not trying to get him into a position of play is puzzling to me. But hey, that's neither here nor there. So I don't know. That's going to be a toss-up in the Dolphins and the Redskins this week. But somebody does have to win, or they could tie. So who knows? But those are the games that I'm looking forward to. Any games you're looking forward to this week?
Man, I'm trying to tell you, Miami, the only way they'll probably get themselves a win at this rate is since the Super Bowl is being played in Miami. If they could, like, accidentally on purpose suit up for one of them Super Bowl teams, this might be the only way that they get a win here. I'm rooting for Washington just based off of all the turmoil going on. But I hate that for Dennis Haskins. I mean, low-key, he probably sitting back thinking, like, I should have stayed at Ohio State for this. I could have been making more money staying up there, a little shade shot there with the college money, probably sneaking in. But, yeah, he probably thinking, I should have stayed at Ohio State for this. And it was so misleading because Washington, of course, took a 7-0 lead at the beginning of that game. It looked like they was going to make a little bit of noise. And then the Patriots could have tied. They missed the extra point. It was still Washington 7-6. And then, of course, the doors blew off from there. And Washington didn't score anymore, and the Patriots went on to remain triumphant, as we all knew they would. But I am rooting for Washington on Sunday. I would like for them to kind of be able to get like a winning cures everything. But I do want to see Haskins, so maybe I am rooting for Washington to lose. Like, however it gets closer to Haskins playing, I think it's important to.
I can tell you this: Colt McCoy is not the answer.
He's not. You gotta give your rookie some confidence. I mean, you know,
Right.
you gotta boost his confidence. And you would think coming in with a new coach, this would be a good time to do so. But I don't know what the Redskins are doing.
In fairness to Dwayne Haskins, you know, the game that he threw the 3 interceptions, he didn't have any reps with those guys
Right.
in practice to even get, you know, any type of rhythm or anything like that. And I can tell you right now, if anybody's going to be the face of that franchise, it's going to be Dwayne Haskins. And I just kind of feel like he's been done unfairly or being treated unfairly in Washington right now, because he could have gone to any other team and did well. and would be doing well right now. And so, the fact that the Redskins aren't utilizing him is just a sad case, and hopefully that'll change in the very near future, because Colt McCoy and Case Keenum is not the answer. But hey, that's neither here nor there. But anyway.
Yeah, sad but true. And they definitely on the field, it's gonna start with the quarterback. We know at the top it's definitely start with Dan Snyder, but you got to get that quarterback piece into play. It's a very integral part. So we'll see how the dust settles when it comes to what the Redskins do. There are 4 teams on a bye this week. Don't look for any games between Buffalo, Chicago, Indianapolis, or Oakland. None of them are playing this week as they have a bye for week 6. I'm honestly looking really forward to that Houston and Kansas City game. I like to see how Kansas City bounces back at home after losing to the Colts, so you get another home game to try to do that. But Houston is playing lights out right now. They put up 50 points on Sunday as well. So something's got to give here. Like, is this Arsenal attack of this 50 points from Houston going to get slowed down? Is Kansas City going to bounce back? Steve Spagnuolo, what you going to dial up there? And then is Kansas City going to get their face back here? This is a game that we could maybe see later on in the playoffs as well with these 2 teams. So it'll be a nice preview with that. So we'll definitely see how it goes. So this is going to wrap up week 5 of WTF 2 Women Talk Football 2. Touchdown Tomboy, any shout outs, any love, recognition, anything you want to put out there on the table?
Not this week. I know that fall is here and the weather feels great, and the North Carolina State Fair will be coming next week. But outside of that, just have a great week to everybody, and to subscribe, like, and check our channel out, and we hope that you're learning and growing.
Absolutely. We definitely appreciate the love and support. Any feedback that you guys would like to contribute, that's great too. The YouTube channel is SheSP in the network. WTF2 _IG is what it is on Instagram. So be sure you guys follow us there as well. We appreciate all the love, feedback, the views, the comments that we're getting. We'll definitely take any type of feedback. Constructive criticism is welcome and embraced with warm arms. Interestingly enough, AJ Green looks like he'll be out this week as well for the Bengals. He possibly won't sign for the rest of the year. Another little side note here, tight end Benjamin Watson released by the Patriots. So it's going to be interesting to see how things go with him as well, and what other moves the Patriots might be making. I feel like something's coming from this release as well. You know how the Patriots do.
The story is that Stephon Diggs might get traded to the Patriots. How is that? I don't know. But the rumor mill is that's what they're saying.
Right,
I don't know.
And he did follow them on social media. Last I heard that he may not be getting traded, but we never know how that goes, especially now with this open hole here with Benjamin Watson being gone. So yeah, we're definitely gonna see how that goes as well.
Yeah, and those receivers, they're divas, and I just don't see Adam Thielen because he's starting to become very big time. Him and Stephon Diggs working out too well. You usually they only have one receiver.
Absolutely.
One top-notch receiver. And so, Adam Thielen in his own right is pretty good.
Right.
And so I just don't see Diggs been okay with that for long. And so, he may be getting shipped to New England.
That's going to be very, very interesting. We'll see. Well, honestly, I feel like the core of that problem ain't Thielen or Diggs. It's Kirk Cousins.
Yes, Kirk. Oh, yeah, we know. $84 million man.
He must have robbed them.
Mm-hmm.
He must have robbed them at gunpoint or something, getting that contract at this point.
He definitely did, because, he's definitely he's not doing his money's worth. He played okay Sunday, but I think that was after Adam Thielen called him out. But, hey, it is what it is. So it's a little drama brewing in Minnesota, too. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how that tree shakes down.
Absolutely. Prince is not pleased, Minnesota. Y'all better get it together for sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we definitely appreciate you all for tuning in to another episode of WTF 2 Women Talk Football 2. It's your girl, Latasha Miles, a.k.a. Joan Madden, the Gridiron Guys, so SheSP in the network, kicking this thing on out, exiting out with the touchdown tomboy, a.k.a. Shalika McCrimmon. We appreciate the love and support. Thank you all so much, and we'll catch you next week. We out.
All right, we're signing off.